Looking for a small light as a secondary that you can slip in your pocket, not worry about it, that includes built-in charging and is easy to use? Look no further. The ThruNite Archer Mini is here. Welcome back to Shul Lights. Today we have the ThruNite Archer Mini. This is a cool little tiny flashlight that is very easy to use. Let's open up this box here. You'll see that it comes with the flashlight itself, comes with a two-way clip, charging cable, and a manual. Let's get this stuff out of the way. The flashlight itself has a really nice little form factor to it. There's no hard edges, and it's really sleek in your hand. Feels good. Disappears in my hand, in fact. It's so tiny. And it has a Type 3 black anodization. That Type 3 black hard anodization holds up so much better than colors. If you don't know that, the black just wears much better. That's why most flashlights are black. It has a tail switch on the end here, which protrudes, easy to locate, and very easy to operate. Once you get to the UI section, I'll talk about that. Tail switch operated on the end here. For a little tiny 10440 light, it has a TIR optic, which is usually not found. Usually it's a reflector, but this one's a TIR, and it has a hidden charging port, which you unscrew this right here, and there's the charging port right there. And it's a USB-C. We'll get into that more in the charging section in a bit. Let's take a look at the size compared to other lights. And I've got a couple 14500 lights here. Here's a Convoy T2. Here's an Ace Beam Rider RX. These are both 14500s. That's like a AA sized. Then I've got a Raylight Pineapple Mini, which that's a 10440. So that's kind of a AAA sized. This is also a 10440. And then over here on the end, I've got a ThruNite T1S, which is an 18350 battery. So this one's kind of chonky compared to all these. You can see the diameter difference is substantial, but I just wanted to put it up here so that you could see it comparatively. So it's by far the slimmest light of the ones I have on the table right now. Actually, maybe the Pineapple might be a little slimmer, but the Pineapple's also a little longer. Pineapple's got probably maybe a smidge, maybe like half a millimeter less on the diameter, but it's a longer light. So I would, and also this one's in titanium. This one's made out of aluminum, but this one's the true ThruNite is definitely lighter in the hand. Something else to point out is in this field here, this ThruNite has built-in charging. This Rider RX has built-in charging via a rechargeable battery, so it's not really built into the host. It's in the battery itself, the cell. Neither of these do, and then this one has built-in charging, so it's definitely the smallest light I have here with built-in charging. Speaking of built-in charging, let's go ahead and take a look at that. All you do is you unscrew the bezel right here. The bezel is captive. It doesn't come all the way off, but it reveals on this side right here a little USB-C charging port. I've got a white cable here plugged in for contrast so you can see it better. And you plug that guy in. And when you turn it over to the other side, there's a little charging indicator. It's red right now, meaning that it's not fully charged. And when it is fully charged, it turns blue. This battery actually is near full charge, but it's red right now, and I expect it to go blue anytime now. The built-in battery is coded in the manual as a 10400, which is a size that I've never heard of. I think it might be a typo, 3200 milliamp hour, 10400. So I think that's just a kind of a typo. It also claims that it's built in, and I agree with that because I see a little gap right here between the logo where it says ThruNite and the rest of the body. And I tried really hard with the strap wrench to pull this apart. I thought maybe I could get in there and see the cell, but I was unable to get it open. I even tried a little heat, but I didn't want to destroy the poor light before I made the review. It's probably safe to say that the battery is built in and non-user serviceable. One other thing I'll point out about the charging light here is when it's plugged in, you got two colors, as I said, red and blue, but when it's not plugged in, this light is supposed to flash blue when the battery's low voltage. I assume that that's when it's on. The manual isn't very clear about that. Notice that I've just turned it on and there's no light at all. So my assumption is, and I haven't run the battery this far down yet, but that when you turn it on, this will start flashing blue. Let's get this closed and talk about the UI. The UI actually is my favorite thing about this light. I see this light and I think, okay, who's this for? Well, it's lightweight and it's no nonsense. It's kind of a tool light, maybe a light I would recommend to a friend or a loved one that wasn't really a flashlight enthusiast, because it's so easy to operate. It has two modes only. And it's, you click it on for low and then you click it off, or you can double click to go to high and then click it off. Let me lock the exposure and show you the difference there. So there is low, and double click will get you to high. And the low is claimed to be 18 lumens and the high is supposed to be 405 lumens. We'll take a look at that on the Lumen tube in a moment. But I also want to point out one more thing about the UI. So in addition to being low and then double tap for high, you do have a strobe if you triple tap. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And here's actually my favorite thing of all, and that is that it has a lockout feature depending on how you turn it on or turn it off. Let me explain. So some lights, so they don't accidentally activate in your pocket, you have to press and hold, or press and hold for off. And I don't always like that, but I understand it. Well, this light, if you press, just click once, turn it on. But then when you turn it off, instead of just clicking, okay, let me turn it back on. If you press and hold, it turns it off, and now it's on lockout. So now if I tap it, see that? It gives you a single flash to let you know you're on lockout, so you're not confused. Now to get it back on, you got to press and hold again, and now it's on. So I really like that feature. I think that's the first time I've ever seen it, and it's neat because if you don't like lockout, you can just operate with just a single tap like this. But if you think about it and press and hold, then it's locked out for your pocket and it won't accidentally activate. The simplicity of that UI, where it's only got two modes and there is a lockout depending on how you turn it off, I just really like it. It actually really appeals to me. If I had one gripe, I would say that the low is a very good low, but it's definitely not a moonlight. This light doesn't have a moonlight. But for a two-mode light, I would rather have low and high than a moonlight and high. I think that the correct two modes were chosen. Let's take a look at it on the Lumen tube now and see how it actually fares. So on low, I'm reading 16 lumens. Now, with the accuracy of my equipment, that could very well be 18. So that sounds pretty good because they said 18 in the manual. And if you double tap, I get 320. I usually get about 330 when I first turn it on when it's fully charged. So I'm getting about 330, and they quote 405. So that sounds pretty reasonable. Let's take a look at the CCT and the tint. All right, let's get it on high and get a measurement of the light. And we're measuring it at about 5,700 Kelvin there, and about 111 delta UV positive. So this is a green tinted light, and that's another thing that should be noted. If you are a tint snob, this is not a great light for you. However, it is quite bright, easy to use, very tool-like light. But I'm definitely not going to use it if I'm looking for quality of color rendition. Notice that the R9 is -44. This is a low CRI light. And also, this CCT here, the emitter in it is a SST20. I believe it to be an SST20 6500 Kelvin. The reason why it's coming up as 5,700 is probably due to being run a little lower amperage by the driver than it could run, and also the TIR is probably knocking it down a little bit. So let's take this light outside and see how it fares against the Pineapple Mini and the Rider RX. All right, let's get some beam shots. Let's start with the Pineapple Mini. This was a 10-440 light, which is very comparable to the ThruNite Archer. And we are going to go straight to high. So that's turbo right there. Let's get some focus. And this is a little under 200 lumens on turbo, and I measured the candela as 825 candela. So this is pretty typical of a little AAA light like this. All right, let's now switch it up to the Rider RX from AceBeam. This is a much larger 14500 light, so it's not really directly comparable. Let's make sure I'm on the highest mode. I think I was. So we are on 100% turbo right now, and you can see how much more light this puts out than the Pineapple Mini. I measured this one at 2400 candela. Now, this is a lot better, but I want to point out that it's also a much bigger light than ThruNite Archer. You can see how much more diminutive the ThruNite is, and yet this one I also measured at about 2100 candela. So let's take a look at that. See, look at the throw on that. For a little tiny guy about the size of the Pineapple, that is amazing. Let's put the Pineapple in this side by side. So here's the Pineapple on the left and the ThruNite on the right. So there's Pineapple. You can see the Pineapple is barely lighting anything up, and the ThruNite is really throwing. So I'm really impressed with the output of this little guy. Look how small it is. Look at that. So when I look at this light, I try to figure out who this light would be for, and clearly it's not winning any tint awards. So if I compare it against something like a Pineapple Mini here, and if I were a tint snob, I would have to recommend the Pineapple Mini every time. But this guy is almost double the lumens. I get about 180 on the Pineapple Mini, and I'm getting about 330 over here. So it puts out a lot more light, which then also means more throw. And I also want to point out that I really dislike the button on the Pineapple Mini. I find it very difficult to kind of click through sometimes. It's squishy and I miss modes. This guy is a really just kind of an easy light to operate. I've never missed a mode yet. And so I think that that's really what it is if I'm got my enthusiast hat on and I care about the quality of light, I think that the Pineapple Mini is a better light. However, if I just want a no fuss, no muss light that I want to use as a tool, this ThruNite Archer Mini is a great light with its built-in charging. It's easy to use UI, and it's very small, little tiny form factor. I guess my one-line review is, if I was going to give one of these lights to my sister, who knows nothing about flashlights, it would definitely be the ThruNite, just because she could pick it up and operate it every time, and it makes a lot of sense, and she doesn't need an external charger. Final thought, too, is the Pineapple Mini is about $40, $45. This guy can be next day bought on Amazon for $25, and I noticed that there was a $6 coupon right now. So really, it's a $19 light with included battery and charger. I think it's a great deal. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can see all my new reviews, and I'll catch you in my next video.